And let's go there quickly, John chapter 5, to see what's going on with regard to the angel. It says, John chapter 5, verse 1, "After this there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool, in Aramaic called Bethesda, which has 5 roofed colonnades. And these lay a multitude of invalids, blind, lame, and paralyzed. One man was there who had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had already been there a long time, he said to him, 'Do you want to be healed?' The sick man answered him, 'Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up, and while I'm going, another steps down before me.' Jesus said to him, 'Get up, take your bed, and walk.' And at once the man was healed, and he took up his bed and walked." In this version, the English Standard Version, they don't mention a verse which a part of the passage that does appear in other translations, because it appears in some manuscripts, original manuscripts, and it doesn't appear in others. And that verse says that what the people in the pool of Bethesda were waiting for was for an angel to come down from heaven to stir the waters, and that's when the people would then try to jump in, and they would supposedly get healed. Now, the whole context of this passage is people who are disabled, people who can't operate on their own, and that's why this is happening by the sheep gate. It is a place of dependency, of people depending on their pastors, acting as sheep who simply follow the pastor and who don't know where to go by themselves. And it also mentions 5 roofed colonnades, and the 5 colonnades point to the 5 ministries: apostle, prophet, evangelist, pastor, and teacher. So it talks about people with ministerial dependence, who depend on the ministers for God to operate in their lives. And that's why when Jesus said to him, "Do you want to be healed?" to the man that is mentioned here, the man replies, "I don't have anyone to take me." In other words, if there is no intermediary to help me out, to access the grace of God, the anointing of God, I won't be able to do it on my own. And Jesus tried to make him understand that he did not depend on anyone else but God. Here we can see that the angel, that is not mentioned in this version, but is mentioned in other versions and in some of the original manuscripts, is a figure of people who come as intermediaries to perform a favor, you could say, on God's behalf to people who don't have direct access to God because they are disabled. They can't access God on their own. So that's why this old prophet spoke of an angel saying that to him. So we can see that the spirit of intermediaries begin to appear. The man of God had received a direct word, a direct command from God in the spirit, and then suddenly another man came along, and he said, no, I come with another message from God. God didn't tell it to you directly, but now I'm acting as an intermediary, and it became like the famous telephone call thing. God called the angel, and the angel then picked up the phone and called the old prophet, and the old prophet picked up the phone and called the man of God to tell him that God had said, "Oh, forget what I said to you directly. This is planned. This is what we're going to do now." So that is an important principle, that in the house of God, in the so-called house of God in Bethel, there is a spirit of intermediaries that is dominating the spiritual atmosphere and is causing many people to go astray and fall away from their true spiritual calling, as happened with this man in this passage. Now, we go back to the question we were asking before. Why would the old prophet lie to him? I mean, why did he become so interested in this man of God, and especially after he had heard what this man of God had said to the king? And the answer is that prophets understand a principle that probably people who operate in other endowments have a harder time understanding. And it's the fact that the anointing is transmissible. There's a certain impartation quality to the anointing that prophets, that people who are strongly prophetic understand very well. That's why Elisha was trying to get an impartation from Elijah, from the anointing of Elijah. And in the Old Testament, when it talks about the prophetic spirit falling on 70 elders, and then there were two men who were not in that group of 70 who began to prophesy. That speaks of impartation. And when God told Moses to set up that meeting where the 70 elders would get this prophetic anointing, he said, put them before you so that the Spirit in you may fall on them. So there was an impartation from Moses to the 70, and two others who had not been invited to the dance, they began to prophesy as well, which is a figure of the remnant, because that would complete the number 72, which has spiritual relevance when you go back to Genesis chapter 10. But the thing is that the old prophet was after the man of God because he had not been flowing in the prophetic anointing for years probably. And when he saw that there was this man who had this fresh anointing, he said, I have to go get to him and get a prophetic impartation from him so that I can go flow in the prophetic again. So that is the reason why he was, the main reason why he wanted the man of God with him. And there's another reason, but in order to understand that other reason, we have to finish reading the chapter.